Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I am joined by the wonderful Karl Forshaw, author of Renia, which has a bit of a glare here. I apologize for that, but you can see that lovely cover here. Thank you so much for joining me here, Karl.
Thank you for having me.
Would you mind going through and introducing yourself and your book for us?
Sure. I'm Karl Forshaw. I am a new writer, and Renier is my debut novel. It's a sort of a grimdark gaslamp fantasy sort of thing about a girl who is a scribe, and she lives in a world where the moon fell from the sky at some point in the past and caused a war, which they are now living in the aftermath of. But the book doesn't have too much to do with that. It's just sort of an intro to the series, and it's set in a place called the Halls of Venn, which is the only place in the world where books are allowed to be published. She's very good at her job, and that means that she gets offered a commission, which is copying a book that's restricted. And then that book gets stolen, and it causes a whole heap of trouble for her and a few other people who are other points of view in the story. And then it goes a bit crazy, and then hopefully comes together at the end in a way that's entertaining.
As I like to say, hijinks ensue.
Yeah, and I'm also terrible at doing synopses and elevator pitches for my work. So there you go.
I mean, that was wonderful.
Okay.
You did great. We have a few folks here with us today. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Ryan, Bo. Thanks for stopping in. Shenanigans, thank you. Yes, right?
Yeah, right.
It's all
Ryan likes that
shenanigans.
word. Yeah.
It's perfect. So we have quite a few items for today's chat because there's a lot going on. You have a lot upcoming, a lot of things to congratulate you on as well, which we will get to. But why don't we start with a bit of a fun icebreaker? Can you give us a little fun fact?
I don't know. I'm not that much of a fun person. I've got a dog, and her name is Luna.
Oh,
So
that's sweet.
there's a connection there. I used to play guitar in a Thin Lizzy tribute band. There you go.
Oh, very nice. Did you have a style that you like to play primarily?
It was classic rock stuff,
Nice. Very
70s
nice.
stuff.
And I think we have the missus here as well. Welcome.
Oh, hello, love.
So we've also got some congratulations on joining the SFF Insiders team, which is being run by our one and only Bo Kelly here as well. Congratulations on joining the team.
Thank you. It was a bit of a surprise, to be honest. So
Oh, really?
thank you, Bo, for having me, and I'm excited. I think I'm on the review team, which means that I'll be doing reviews and writing about books, which is something that I really enjoy doing,
That's
but don't get a
exciting.
chance to do that much. So it's a real pleasure. And I think I was talking to Bo earlier, and he said that the site would be live sometime in early April.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so it looks like a great project, and I'm really excited to be part of it.
And have you been reviewing books in the background as you're writing as well?
Yeah, I still read a lot, so I do when I'm not writing. So last month I was pretty heavily drafting book 2. Thank you,
Okay.
Bo. Yeah, and because of that, I didn't get much read. I think
Mm.
I've read 3 or 4 books this year, but I'd like to be sort of in the 30s by the end of the year. But I do like to review things that don't have a lot of reviews. So when I read other indie
Mm.
authors' work, I tend to throw out 5-star reviews and write big, long essays
Yes.
on them, especially if the author's name is Joe Byrne or Rex Burke.
You can't go wrong with Joe's books.
I love
JCM's
Joe's
written.
books. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're really good, really well written. I just had the pleasure of reading the new one.
For those who
There
are
you go.
wondering, Wistful Ascending is the first one in JCM's series there.
And one of the nice things about being in the community is you get people sending you lots of free books to read.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm reading Ryan, who's in the chat, Ryan Skeffington. I'm reading his debut at the minute, which is really good. I'm
Yes.
reading E.C. Greaves' Daughter of the Beast as well.
And I believe these are all buddy reads happening
That's right.
over at the SFF Insiders Discord. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So at the minute, it's called the Page Turners Discord, and
Mm.
the name will be changing, I think, when the site goes live to SFF Insiders.
Oh, brilliant. And your book is also going to have a buddy read on March 15th?
15th, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so for anyone watching who'd like to try doing a buddy read or enjoys reading with friends, there's an option there for you. We'll have a link in the description to join in for that. And if you're not yet convinced, we will convince you by the end of this chat. I'm sure of it.
Hope so.
So, in terms of, you've actually done a interview recently with our lovely Esme, Rosaline, and you also have a sale going on right now, which you've kindly added an extra code for on your website. So, for anyone watching, again, if we're not convincing you yet, there is a sale going on. If you use the discount code KAY or ESMAY, ESMAY, would you like to give all the details on that one?
Yeah, sure. If you head over to my website, it's karlforshaw.co.uk. Go into the shop there, and it's the offer is on the paperback, and it's a 60% off deal for the month of March, which is a birthday celebration for the book. And to say thank you to Kay and Esme for having me, and Usman as well at Bards and Books. We have a code running for the interview I did with him as well. So it's a big promotion. And if you want anything writing in the book, just put it in the notes when you check out, and I'll personalize anything and sign anything.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for doing that. So let's dive in a little bit with what kind of reader would enjoy your book best, do you think?
That's a very difficult question.
And in other words, who is your ideal reader audience?
There's a lot of different things in Renia for different people.
Okay.
There's obviously a lot of daddy-daughter stuff in there because my daughter's in the chat actually looking at this. Hi, darling.
Oh, there she is. Hello.
Yeah. So there's that sort of stuff in there, and then there's quite a lot of mental health sort of stuff in there. People who seem to enjoy the fact that I don't lead you by the hand through the story.
I'll agree to that.
I think, if you like books that don't tell you everything and leave a lot to your imagination, I think that'll be a plus for you. Anyone who can read English, thanks, Joe. That's very nice. Like I said, it's a difficult question. I think that's, if you're not enjoying it by the midway point, you're probably not going to enjoy it. That being said, I do really like the ending, so I would encourage people to bear with me because it's my first book, and it is a slow burn. But I think the second one will be a slow burn as well. I do like the slow burn story.
Yeah, I personally enjoy slow burns, and I fully think it's worth it to continue and see where it goes. But I'm also that kind of reader where I need to know what happens once I've picked up a book. But I will say I did, for anyone who doesn't know yet, because I posted on Twitter, but I ended up binging, I think I'm at like 110, 120 pages. I basically binged the first 25% of the book in one 24-hour period. So I think you're in for a good time. That's
pretty
what
impressive. Yeah.
But it gripped me, right? You hooked me in, and like you said, you didn't hold my hand, but you gave me enough mystery, enough intrigue, and enough investment in these characters that I just wanted to keep turning the pages.
Well, that's really good to hear. Thank you.
Absolutely. So in terms of the series, do you have an idea of how many books are going to be planned? A number?
Yeah, I'm thinking 9.
9, wow.
I've got, because I came up with the world before the individual stories, we started the series somewhere around the middle of the timeline of the series. So I'd like to do a trilogy in the time that Rennie is in, and then I'd like to go back to the the moonfall,
Oh,
and
interesting.
do that, and then that's where you're going to get some of the reveals of things that you haven't been told in the current timeline. And then I'd like to do the sort of synthesis of those two, set maybe 50 or 100 years after, where
Okay.
we get the big resolution. And I know how the series ends.
Oh, interesting. But we have to wait.
Yeah, and I have to keep my mouth shut about it. So
Well, that is exciting because we're gonna dive into all of this soon, but you have multiple timelines in this book, or two timelines specifically, right?
I think there's a sort of 12 years ago, which is the prologue, and then there's an 18 years ago, which is when Rennie is a child, and then there's the present timeline.
Okay, so
I think,
we've got
yeah,
three,
yeah.
um,
But
and
there are
it,
various flashbacks and things that take place all throughout that period.
wow. So we're gonna dive into that in a little bit. I'm gonna save that one. I'm gonna put a pin in that for myself because I am so curious. I have so many questions.
Okay.
But before we continue, I actually want to look at Tim's question here, which was, did you get pushback on that from editors and beta readers, which I believe was in reference to the middle being a bit of a slog?
It might have been to do with the slow burn comment.
Mm,
No, I don't think I did. I think my editor wanted to take, because we've got this alternating timeline happening in Act 1. So we've got Renier as a young adult and Renier as a young child. There is a period which that past period ends around chapter 10.
okay.
And my editor thought we should probably take those 5 chapters and put those at the start of the book.
Okay.
And we tried it, and it was meaning that there were things, because you'll get a past chapter and then you'll get a present chapter, and you'll understand why something triggered Renier,
Mm,
because you've just literally just read the thing that's that's caused her to react the way she's reacted.
right.
So there was a little bit of back and forth, but in the end we decided to keep it the way it was.
Okay. Well, we have a fave here. Shout from Ryan. Child Renia POV is his favorite,
That was a
and
challenge.
oh really?
Yeah. Well, how do you write from a 6-year-old's point of view without making it feel like a children's book?
That's a fair point.
And that was another reason why I didn't want to stick those 5 chapters at the start of the book, because I didn't want people to pick it up and think, oh, this is a kid's book. And then chapter 8
Right.
happens and you realize it's not at all.
Right. Yeah, because it gets pretty dark. And Tim was saying it's in reference to not revealing everything or holding hands.
I would say I've had a couple of bad reviews from people that would have preferred me to be a bit more verbose. But I believe that you have to write the book that you want to read in order to do something that you're going to look back on and think, yeah, I'm glad I did that. So I'm going to continue to write things in that style, and just because I find it more fun, and I don't think I'd have the momentum to finish these things if I didn't enjoy writing them. So
Write what you love, right? And the
yeah.
passion will capture your readers. And Ryan and American Student here. Whoa there, Brandon Sanderson, with those 9 books.
What did I say?
Next thing you know, you're going to be smacking a stack of papers on a secret novel.
I have got one, actually.
Well, that's it. Interview over.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, well, maybe we'll get into that in the
Yeah, okay.
the final comments. Stay tuned to find out about the secret novel. So I know you've done a couple of interviews so far. I'd love to know what's something that hasn't come up yet that you have just been dying to talk about or really wanting to talk about. If
Really,
anything.
it'd be other people's books, probably, but it's kind of stupid to turn up on somebody's channel and talk about other people's books.
Well, you just said you enjoy reviewing, so that totally makes sense.
Yeah, I do, and I've read some fantastic books over the past 2 years.
Any? Can you give a top 3?
Top 3 for the past year.
Yeah.
probably narrow it down to, I'd probably go series rather than story.
Okay.
But I think Adrian Tchaikovsky's Tyrant Philosophers series
Oh,
is
okay.
so good.
Mm,
City of Last Chances and House of Open Wounds, both
mm.
amazing books. And I've been reading China Mieville's newer stuff, the short novels and the novellas he's written. One of them's called This Census Taker, and the other one is called The Last Days of New Paris. And those are so beautifully written, and they've given me a new respect for shorter form work,
Oh, interesting.
because what he's been able to do with 120 pages, it makes it, you really have to be on the ball to deliver a punch like that over 120 pages.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would really recommend that book to anyone who loves writing. It's just a masterclass.
That's brilliant. And I'm curious, as an author, when you're reading that type and you're of story and you're impressed by what they were able to achieve in that page count, does that make you want to try doing that yourself? Or is it something you go, I can have a healthy respect for that over there and still write my own thing?
I don't know. I haven't really tried to do the shorter form stuff. I guess the Renier was a novella originally.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, because I had it end after chapter 8.
Oh, you can't end there.
Yeah, I know. So that was so that's how I know I can't do novellas. I would love to try it. And like I said, I do have a secret project that I'm working on that could be anywhere between 40 to 70,000 words, I think.
Okay. Okay.
So it might be on the shorter side, but I haven't really finished, making it a book yet. I've got the broad strokes. So that might end up being a shorter one. But I like short stories as well. And this was something that I discovered whilst I was reading the Horus Heresy series, which is a Black Library Warhammer 40k stuff. That they would do like 3 full-length novels, and then you'd get a short story book.
Okay.
And some people hate them because they're a break from the rhythm of the series.
Right.
And at first, there were some of them that I found a bit jarring, and then after a while, I started to look forward to the short story books, because I did start to get a respect for. It's kind of like, I like to think of it like a juice shot. It's you delivering a punch in a very small package.
Yeah, and you're kind of giving readers a little something extra in between while you're working on the bigger projects. So,
Yeah.
I mean, since you're kind of hinting at it with the secret project, what can you share with us? Whether it's an anticipated expect details date or whatever it is.
I would like to have it finished this year. So
Okay.
I've done Luna Ruinum 2 is the first draft is finished. And
Okay.
even though it scares me, I am fairly happy with it. So as long as my editor comes back and says he's fairly happy with it, that will happen this year.
Okay.
But while I'm waiting for my editor, I'd like to be drafting this other book, which is not set in Luna Ruinum at all. It's actually set in a future dystopia.
Oh, wow.
There's a theme emerging. Yeah, where it's kind of it focuses heavily on mental health in males. And the suicide problem that we have at the minute with men.
Yeah.
So it's kind of my attempt at doing something that means something,
Of course. It's good on you, because it's a hard subject, to cover, and it's I imagine trying to put it in the form of a story and giving it justice as much as it can is, you want to give it that time. You want to make sure you do it to the best of your ability. So good on you. And Bo here says, Carl, do you plan to release your secret project or any other series before completing this series?
Yeah, I do. I'd love to get. I'd love to do Luna Ruinum 2, and then this project I'm talking about now, and then Luna Ruinum 3. And then I do have a couple of other things that I'm toying with the idea of, which are probably going to end up being more sci-fi than fantasy. But at the minute, they're just sort of ideas that are buzzing around up here. There's nothing concrete yet.
Oh,
But I
interesting.
would love to have sort of the Lunar Ruinum series, and then by the time that series is finished, I'd love to have 3 or 4 other books that have got nothing to do with Lunar Ruinum, just as palate cleansers, really.
Any other kind of genre you would like to dip your toes into, or similar kinds of genres?
Yeah, I'm not really a genre guy, to be honest. And
Okay,
I think
blend.
Esme said,
Yeah.
Esme said that even Renier is a genre blendy kind of book.
Hmm.
I just like to make things up and see how they fit together. And I just like to say, well, what if this and what if this, and then see how things end up. And sometimes I'll just be looking at something in the street and it'll give me an idea for something, and I want to explore that. And what does that kind of world look like? I'm really waffling on here, aren't I?
No, that's great. I always say, like, when people feel like they're rambling, you're not rambling. You are just showing your passion, right? You're
Yeah,
sharing
okay.
everything that you love about it. Ryan here says, serenade us with stories about Linux.
I was talking to Ryan yesterday about formatting, and this actually is something I'd never get asked about in interviews because it's boring. But I use like a split keyboard. I don't know if you can see.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I have this is
Yes.
the left hand side of it, and
Yeah.
then so it's a really clacky keyboard that everyone finds hilarious when I'm calling. And I use Linux, and I don't use any sort of word processor or formatting software that anyone would recognize. I use a 25-year-old text editor
Oh,
that
wow.
runs on the command line, and then I have a script that transforms Markdown files into PDFs and EPUB files. So my formatting is done as I'm writing, because every time I hit save, it generates the files.
That's amazing. Did you program that yourself, or is that part of the?
Yeah, because I'm a geek anyway, so it was sort of something I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if it did this for me? And then I ended up writing this script.
So, in that case, let's dive into it a little bit, because you're a software developer, right?
Yeah, I have been.
Yeah.
I think I was 13 something when I started writing code.
Wow, that's quite young.
Yeah,
Well,
I was just obsessed with it. So I was always going to go in that direction, and then I got a break when I was about 17 or 18 because I was working in a supermarket before that.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I left school and I went to work in Sainsbury's, which is a supermarket here in the UK, and then got chatting to someone at a house party one day who said, we're looking for computer programmers, and I said, oh, I can do that. And then that was sort of my big break into the software industry, and then I was writing code for 10, 15 years or so after that. I've just been doing it ever since, and it's only the last sort of 4 or 5 years where I've been able to back away from writing code a bit and explore other things. And
Okay, interesting. So when you're looking at writing with that perspective, like you said, you developed a bit of a code there to help you with the formatting every time you save. Are there other things that you would love to develop on your side to help you with the writing process or other aspects of your life?
I'd like to do something for the community at some
Hmm.
point. I don't know what that would be yet, but I have recognized that there are inefficiencies throughout the whole publishing process that there are things
Okay.
that could be streamlined, and maybe I could do a tool that would help other people with formatting or something like that. I'm not sure yet. It
Right.
might just be helping out with the SFF Insiders website or something like that, but I'm always happy to lend a hand if with technical stuff.
That's amazing. I know it's from the authors I've chatted with, there's always a challenge, right? That they didn't anticipate, something they weren't expecting. And I know K.E. Andrews does amazing work with her formatting, with images and overlays. And I know that she's also helped other authors do the same thing. So the community is amazing. And I'm sure whatever you end up applying those skills and those ideas to will end up being a huge help for others, because it really does make a difference from what I've heard, authors banding together and helping each other with those little details.
Yeah, it's one of the great happy surprises of doing this whole thing has been being part of these Discord groups and
Mm.
building this community of friends and acquaintances on Twitter and other platforms, and everybody holds each other up, and everybody's
Yeah.
really supportive of each other's work. It's a great community. It's one of the best I've been in, I think.
Absolutely. Same for myself. And actually, since we're on that topic, how did you come to find the bookish online community?
I was thinking about this earlier because I thought it was either I thought it's either Kay or it was
Oh,
Tessa,
okay.
and now I'm thinking it was Tessa.
Okay. Yeah.
And I can't pronounce Tessa's surname, so forgive me, Tessa, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking
Okay.
about. I've also butchered her last name. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Well, for anyone who's listening, there is a book called Tales of Lunis Aquaria.
Hmm.
It's a wonderful children's book that's a little bit darker than a normal children's book,
Hmm.
but it's fantastic. So if you've got children that you like reading to, go and have a look at that. But yeah, fantastic. I just remember her reaching out to me and saying, "Oh, I see you're working on a book and you're trying to promote it, and have you tried joining this Discord group?" And then I joined, and I think that was the India Chords server, which is where I'm sure that's where I met you.
Yes, I think so.
But it was like 4 years ago now, and my memory's awful.
Oh my gosh, that long?
It was 2020. It was 2021. I'm sure it was 2021.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I just had a bad reality flash there.
Probably 2 years ago. I'm not good at math either, to be honest.
Oh, it's all good. Time just flies by.
Yeah.
But no, that's amazing. And Bo here says he's got plenty of places to put you to work.
Good.
But you started off with quite a bang when you published your debut here because you went all out with a special launch edition with
I
sprayed
did, and
edges.
you were one of the few that got the special box as well. Do you remember?
I still have it. It's
Really?
on my shelf. Yes.
Great. Each one of those boxes took me about 2 hours to make because
That
I made them by hand.
did you do it with one of those crickets?
Cricket machine, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So why the drive to launch your book like that? How did you get the sprayed edging? What drove you to go to such detail with it?
I think because I was a complete unknown at that point, I didn't really I obviously had no books out and also didn't know that many people. It wasn't easy for me to just reach out to booktubers and reviewers. And, you can send 100 emails out to booktubers and
Mm,
for every email you send, they've got another 200 or 300 in their inbox that they haven't had time to look at.
mm,
So it's very difficult to make an impression as a new author. So I figured if I'm going to do it, I have to send out, I have to be sending out things that people want to have.
mm.
So I had this idea that, well, I'm going to print my own books instead of going down the KDP or Ingram route to make sure that they're as high quality as they can be.
Right.
And then I'm going to do something with the packaging that makes them worthy of being shared on social media.
Right. And it did. It caused quite a stir at the time. I remember everyone was posting all their pictures and videos unboxing it. It caught quite a bit of attention.
Yeah, it was. It really paid off. Yeah, and then you always have this lull where, because it takes a long time to get to somebody's book. So even if you have managed to make a splash and get your book shared online or featured on someone's YouTube channel, it doesn't mean that they're going to have time to read it. So
Right.
then it's been sort of a year of sort of trying to build momentum for it.
Yeah.
And quite lucky now that I'm at the sort of 50 reviews, 50 ratings mark on. So
Yeah.
it's a lot easier for me now to get people to pay attention and have a look at it.
That initial build up though takes time.
It takes a lot of time, yeah. And I do think going down the route of having my books printed by a proper, I say proper, but a reputable printer, because it's the same printer that does the books for Broken Binding. They're
Oh
a company
wow.
called CPI. And they have an indie team there as well. Speaking, if anybody is interested, speak to Libby. She's fantastic.
That's amazing.
They talk you through everything, even send you paper samples out and say, what paper do you want it to be printed on. And I wanted
Oh.
the dust jacket embossed, you
Mm,
know, and then all these things they were happy to accommodate, and the pricing is a lot more reasonable than you'd think as well. So
right.
I think if you can, if you can take the upfront cost on, you're going to be making a lot more money per book than you would be if you were having them printed on demand. The issue
Right.
is shipping.
Yes, shipping is costly,
Mm.
and, but I imagine, though, doing that investment, getting that initial spark and attention, you also have a run of first edition prints they're special, they've got the sprayed edging that are probably never gonna be printed again.
They won't. No, they won't be. I'd said if I need to reprint hardbacks, I probably wouldn't do the dust jacket. I'd do them more like just a printed book.
Right.
Have you got Joe
Yep.
Burns hardbacks there?
I don't have JCMs, but I've
Yeah,
got a couple. I've got the, Hills of Heather and Bone, and, this one as well, where you
exactly.
can see
Yeah,
the artwork there.
yeah. I think I'd probably do them like that, and then I wouldn't do them with the sprayed edges either, just because I think it's good to have
Okay.
those sort of first edition, launch edition hardbacks that there's only 333 of those. So
Right.
if you've got one of those now, you've got it's great. I mean, I think I've only got 8 or 9 left.
Oh, well, people go buy. If they're if they're up for sale, go
Well,
buy
I
them.
haven't. All of mine went to the broken binding, so they have
Oh, okay.
all my remaining stock apart from the ones I stashed in the corner.
Okay.
So yeah, they're all there now, and I think they are selling fast. So if anybody wants one of the limited edition ones, it's probably a good time to do it.
There you go.
But I still have lots of paperbacks.
Yes.
I,
That's
I
great.
don't. I always thought that the paperbacks would sell better than the hardbacks. It's been the opposite.
I mean, as a book lover who loves beautiful books, I can kind of I can kind of see why.
Yeah.
So let's check with the live chat actually, because I want to make sure we're giving you guys a chance to ask your questions as well to Carl. So throw those in the chat. And while we're waiting for that, we're going to dive a little bit into your story and your writing. Because I'm all, like I said, I'm only 100 pages in, but I have so many questions and we probably
Okay.
don't have time for all of them.
I can make time. It's fine.
No, it's all good. I realize it's late for you too, but let's start off with what sparked the idea for the story and the world, and how long did it sit with you before you actually put this down into paper, let's say?
It started as a game project. So I
Oh,
was, yeah, I was. I think I've told this story once or twice now, but I wanted to see if I could build a game engine, because that's a really
interesting.
difficult thing to code,
Yeah.
and it's something that I've always wanted to do, but I put it off because I'm not great at maths. We say
Okay.
maths in the UK, by the way. It's
Oh, it's all good.
yeah. So I studied math for a while, the American version there.
I'm Canadian, so I got a mix of both.
So do you say maths or math?
Whatever we fancy.
Okay.
Generally it's math, but if you go to the East Coast, every word that shouldn't have a plural has a plural. So depends on what part of Canada you're from.
Okay. Well, I did some maths, and then I started building this game engine, and it was supposed to be sort of like a mid-90s Final Fantasy style game. So I was playing Final Fantasy 9 at the time. I don't know if you've played
Okay.
that one.
I'm trying to remember. I think I played 10.
10 was the one on the PlayStation 2, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good one. But yeah, it was the one with the it was very fantasy. It was very sort of not high, well, yeah, I guess it was high fantasy, but it was just so visually striking to me after not playing it since I was a kid, that I thought, wow, I love this world, and it would be great to sort of write a love letter to this game. So I started working on it, and at the time, I had a bit of extra cash, and I tried to put a team together to work on this game project, thinking that it was going to be a small project. And then after working on it for a few months, we realized it was actually going to be a huge project, and if we wanted to finish it, we were probably going to need funding. But part of that process was as the art came together and the character concepts came together, the concepts artist, she said, I've got this character here. It's the school teacher. And I went, oh, okay. And then the name Renia popped into my head. And then I started thinking, what's her story? And then that's how the whole thing came about, because I was just curious. I liked the concept. And so I started writing backstory. And that was the first time I'd ever really written anything. So I thought, I'll just write a short story. And then that turned into a novella. Before I knew it, I had 60,000 words and just carried on going.
So it just evolved from asking questions, letting that curiosity take over. And how long did it take you to go from first sitting down and writing the story to having a first draft, for example?
It was first draft, not that long. I think the first draft I had in 5 or 6 weeks.
Okay.
But it was only 60,000 words, so it was half the length of the final novel.
Right. And so you sat down and finished it out.
So I think I finished it it may have been August or September. And then I decided I didn't want to go anywhere near a publisher until I had someone professional look at it. So I sent it to a couple of people for manuscript critique, which is a great idea, by the way, because it really shines a light on things that you've missed.
Right.
And I got these 2 reports back, and the feedback was, this is a very dark novel.
Oh.
Very, very dark. There's no light in it. There's no hope in it. It needs, work. And
right.
When I read it back now, I'm like, yeah, it really needs work. I just learned so much from those first 2 critiques. And the second person that critiqued it, John Rickards, I enjoyed the back and forth with him so much that I decided, well, I'm going to ask him to be my developmental editor, and then, just my editor. And I built this great relationship with John. So after I went away and did the second draft, I gave it back to him and I said, I think I fixed everything. And he's like, this is double the length.
You fixed it though.
I think I fixed it though. And he said, well, yeah, it's coherent. You've fixed it all, but you still need to fix this and this. So then I went back and did another draft, and those drafts took months. The second draft, I think I know I procrastinated on it a lot, and because I did a lot of thinking, and there were some things that I found really challenging. I couldn't get the ending to come together.
Right.
And I remember it took, I think there was a good year of editing before, maybe not, maybe 7 or 8 months of edits before I was ready to publish it. But then, the thing is, you set your date for publishing, and then you have to make sure that your covers are ready. You have to get everything to the printers on time. You have to get a slot with the printers. You have to get it out to beta readers and reviewers, get your art copies out. So there was a good 6 or 7 months just waiting for things before I could publish. And then luckily I was able to do it in March of 23.
So with this being your first time going through it, was there parts of it that were shocking that you kind of were like, okay, yeah, no, I get it? What was it like for you going through it the first time, not really knowing exactly what you were getting into?
I thought it was fun, to be honest.
Oh,
I didn't.
awesome.
Yeah, it was a good challenge, and also doing things, speaking to the printers and having it done that way, and then getting all these books delivered on a big pallet and lugging all these boxes into the house while my wife's sort of grumbling about them being in the way. It was all a great experience, and I think the thing that shocked me the most was just how much work is involved in setting up a company to sell books. Because you've got to have all these accounts with Amazon, and they are notoriously difficult to deal with. And then they're like, okay, well, the credit card works in this country, but not this country and not this country. I'm like, well, why?
My gosh.
So it took weeks just to get my Amazon seller accounts set up.
Right.
That was a big shock to me.
Wow. Well, you did it. And hopefully the next book will be
It will
much
be
easier.
easier. Yeah.
But I love that you came away with it thinking it was fun, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, that's the way you would hope it would go, right? Publishing
Yeah.
your first
It's
book.
it's a massive rush. It's a huge rush
Mm,
because you've brought something into the world. You know, for better or worse, it's part of you that's going to live on.
right.
And that was the thing that really hit me. After you publish a book in the UK, you get a letter from the government, um, and they say, you know, you need to send this book to, you need to send hard copies of your book to the Great British Library and these other 5 libraries,
Wow.
and you need to make sure that those books will be, you know, all right to live for 200 years plus. So
Oh my
you
gosh.
yeah. So, and then you get this visual of your book sitting in this library, you know,
Mm,
that's outlived your grandchildren.
yeah. It must be quite the moment to be able to reflect like that, you
Mm,
know? And I imagine it would be kind of a dream or a goal you didn't know you had.
mm.
And oh, Ryan here says 5 or 6 weeks for 60K words is an animal pace. You accidentally did NaNoWriMo. Quite impressive. And yes, definitely another Sanderson here.
I think Ryan's just being kind. He's a
There
kind guy.
you
I
go.
I wrote I did 60,000 words in February as well because I did the second book. I finished the second book, and I said I want to have it all done in February, and I was drafting at the same time as JCM Byrne. So
Right.
every day we're sort of catching up with each other. You know, what's your word count? And
That's
he
awesome.
he beat me to it by 3 or 4 days, but
I don't know how Joe writes as fast as he does.
he's
If
like
you're
me.
watching Joe,
Yeah,
it's
he's like a
crazy.
binge writer. He's I think once he's got his head into to the
Mm.
task, he hyperfixates on it, and it's until it's finished. That's all he's doing.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of similar. If I have to go 100 miles an hour at something, or it's really difficult for me to push it over the finish line, so I have to
Right.
make it a priority and really
Interesting.
push it.
It's it's fascinating to hear about the processes, how everyone does it differently. It as a reader, I always wonder these questions. I'm like, how did the
Mm.
author come up with this? What was, what was going through their brain when they wrote this scene, or how quickly did they get it done? And I'm just fortunate enough to be able to have the opportunity to ask and pick authors' brains on
Those are
those questions.
the most fun answers questions to answer as well.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I love to hear it because I've
Mm.
got more.
Okay.
So we were talking about the timelines earlier.
Mm.
And looking at your writing process, and you've got multiple POVs as well. So we've got
Mhm.
multiple timelines, multiple POVs. How on earth did you balance all of that with your writing process? Because you've got mystery in there too, right? So
Yeah,
you have to make sure you're giving foreshadowing without spoiling anything between those timelines and POVs. How did you manage that?
it's a really crappy answer, and I'm sorry,
I'm sure. Go
but
for it.
it just sort of happens, and I can't really
Okay.
explain it. I might give my, it's like giving, I don't know if this is my programmer brain, but I give my subconscious a problem to work on,
Mm,
and then I go away and I'll take a shower, or I'll walk the dog, or I'll go outside, and
okay.
then answers just start to come. And sometimes it really takes a long time for that to happen. I was watching your interview with Ryan Skeffington, and he said it's like marinating. You know, he likes to let his
Yes.
ideas marinate for a long time. And I think that's probably why the drafts took longer than the first draft, because when you've got
Mm,
one of these big plot problems that you need to solve,
yeah.
a lot of the time it doesn't happen in your conscious; it's in your subconscious, and the answer will
Right.
just appear. But with the POV switching, I don't really struggle with that at all, because I know I have a sense of who my characters are, and I have a
Mm,
sense of what happens.
okay.
So if you know who your characters are, it's a lot easier to know what they do in a certain situation.
Right. And in terms of those plot holes and keeping everything straight, do you keep all of those major aspects and points throughout the story and the characters' arcs somewhere in a document, just to keep track of? No. You're like, "We're going for it. We're writing
So
book 2."
it's all in here. I do. I write notes, but the notes I write off are bits of dialogue because I'm not good at doing dialogue off the cuff. A lot of my dialogue comes from other people's conversations. I like to listen to the way people talk to each other, and my father-in-law is comedy gold. So,
So which character got that dialogue?
well, I don't really do that, but
Oh, okay.
there are a lot of grumpy old men characters that are
Hmm.
inspired by either my granddad or my wife's dad, or like
Interesting.
the older people that, because I just find older people fascinating and funny. And
Yes.
so yeah, one of my favorite characters was sort of a hodgepodge of all the older Yorkshiremen in my life.
That's fantastic. I think I can guess who that might be.
Yeah, Peter. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think you did a great job with capturing that because I was laughing because I could also recognize some of the older folks that I know in my life. I'm like, oh yeah, they've stopped caring 20 years ago, you know? They do
It's
their
so
own thing.
liberating. It's sort of like, if that's what being older is like, then I'm okay with it. Um, Peter's scenes are so much fun to write. I can't really spoil too much, but later on in the book he goes a bit off the rails,
Okay.
and there's a scene where he's sort of singing in the kitchen, and
Oh,
I was crying with laughter writing that scene.
okay.
And it's still like a highlight for me. If somebody said to me, "What's your favorite bit of Renier?" that would probably be it.
I love it.
But it's. I think I'm sort of torn with the second book because a lot of my characters in the second book aren't as normal.
Okay.
Because the second book focuses a lot more on the Reapers and
Right. Okay.
warrior types who don't have the same sort of weaknesses and flaws. So I'm hoping that the second book doesn't suffer because of that.
And have you noticed a difference in your own writing between book 1 and book 2?
Yeah, I haven't actually gone back and read Renier yet, but I'm planning to do it with the buddy read. Pardon me. Just because after I'd finished writing it and been through all the publishing process, I didn't really want to pick it up again because I must have been through it like 30, 40 times.
That's fair.
But I think I've left it alone long enough now to be able to pick it up and read it again. I've had to read bits and bobs because we're doing the audio book, and
Yes.
Chris wanted to know, is there any scenes you want me to read out, as a sample? So I had to read some of it, and I was actually pleasantly surprised at some of my writing from the first book because I really changed my style a lot.
Oh,
Just
interesting.
writing the first book, and then the second book, I noticed I wrote the first chapter just after I finished Renier, which was back in it must have been 2 years ago, and then I've just finished the book, the first draft. So then I went back to do my editing pass, and I went back to that first chapter, and I realized just how much my writing had changed between then and now.
Oh, wow. So that must have been, I would imagine, rewarding to see that you are growing as an author and being able to pinpoint exactly what it was, right?
I don't know. I'm sort of
No?
I suffer from imposter syndrome really badly as well. So
Yeah.
you're always waiting for someone to say, this is actually not very good,
Right.
So what you're thinking is the tone going to be the same between book 1 and book 2, or is it going to be jarring? Because I have written another 150,000 words since I wrote Renier. So how different is it going to be?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. And I'm sure your team will help you as well as you're sending them out, right? They'll reinforce that thing. But you're right. Even when I'm doing my own videos, it's hard to tell. I'm like, oh, I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to do new things. Am I actually accomplishing it? It is really hard when it's right in your face and it's your full focus. But I think a lot of the times we're too hard on ourselves, more than anything.
Yeah.
And so long as you sprinkle in some hope in there, I think we're okay.
I'm not very good at sprinkling hope.
We'll get it past that
There's,
editor.
there's a bit of hope. Yeah, there's some hope.
And I mean, I've talked with Aaron S. Jones,
Mm.
right, where he does write pretty dark fantasy as well, and he says it's not true grimdark because there is a slice of hope to it, but it is quite dark as well. So I think so long as you balance your tone in a way that your readers are going to enjoy, and it's all about the story you want to tell. Because if you look at other authors, Joe Abercrombie, Anna Smith Sparks, they're very, very dark.
Mm.
Any semblance of hope, I'm at this point, I'm pretty sure is just a misconception. If I'm seeing hope in there, I've gone insane. Someone come find me and help.
It's a funny thing. I don't know if I had this conversation with someone when I was drunk once or something, but the idea that how grimdark something is, even in
Mm,
real life, is just a question of how much you zoom out.
mm,
So the closer you are zoomed into your tiny world and your family and everything,
mm.
things aren't very grimdark. But the more you zoom out
Yeah,
and look at society as a whole, the darker things get.
yeah,
And one of the things that I'm sort of toying with the Luna Ruinum series is what happens when you zoom out beyond the barrier
mm,
of reality and have a look behind the curtain.
yeah.
Is that where the hope is? You know, um,
There's your elevator pitch right there. That's fantastic.
uh,
No, I love that because and this kind of leans into one of my other questions was you've talked about before how you really wanted to tell the story of the world, which is interesting because oftentimes authors they love their world, but they want to focus on characters, they want to focus on plots and society. For you, it was the world, and hearing you say that, I can definitely see that your passion is there for it and the world. So in terms of the world building, when you're writing it, is there an aspect, spoiler free if you can, that you can share with us that you're absolutely passionate about within your world?
spoiler free.
If you can. If
I
not,
guess I think I
bravo.
just touched on it. I think
Okay.
without spoiling too much, there are aspects of the world that are hinted at in the conversations between the god emperor, if you like, of Luna Ruinum and Vendor, who is the grandmaster of the halls of Ven. There are things that are hinted at in those conversations that my editor was like, "Why is this here?" And
Foreshadowing.
yeah, and I'm like, well, I want people to be able to go back and say, "Oh, look, he was planning this in book one."
Hmm.
About the nature of the reality that they live in and how events are actually manifest.
Right.
So yeah, there is the things that excite me about Luna Ruinum are the things that are going to come out in the last 3 books and the way the series ends and the perspective shift in the end.
Hmm.
And if I
Okay.
say any more than that, it's not going to be worth writing. So
Where you have to read to find out, folks.
yeah,
That's how it
hopefully,
works.
yeah. Because unless I go insane, trying to force my subconscious into fixing all the problems.
That's why we have friends to help, talk these things out with,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you mentioned that you write to music as well. Do you
Hmm.
have a playlist where readers can listen to the songs that you listen to while writing the stories?
I do actually. It's funny that you should ask this because the other day I was chatting with Ryan
Mm.
about the idea of having QR codes on the
Oh,
back page
yes.
of or on the back cover or something that you could scan that linked to Spotify playlists. Because I didn't do it as much with Rennie. I had to go back and say, okay, these are the songs I was listening to, because it was all just in my liked music.
Yeah.
But with the second book, I've got a playlist for each POV
Okay.
because I wanted them. I wanted to put more emphasis on character in this book. I wanted to try and make my
Mm.
characters a bit less tropey.
Right.
'Cause some of the feedback I got was that the characters were miscellaneous feeling. So I thought one of the ways I could do that is by having a different playlist with wildly different music for each POV. So that it'll be a lot more interesting with the second book. But I do have a playlist that I'll put down in the comments.
That would be amazing because I would love to listen to that too. I always love finding new music,
It's
and it
pretty experimental stuff.
well, it's fascinating to me as a reader too to know that you listen to these songs and while you were writing it. And for me personally, I don't think I could write with music on. Like I can barely write an email with music on. So to me, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I can't reverse my car with music on.
Okay,
That's I found that really challenging.
interesting.
Yeah, I have to turn it off. I can't see with the music on.
Yeah.
I'm okay with writing. I think the problem is if you're listening to stuff with lyrics, and I know I'm not the
Mm,
only person that said this. The lyrics find their way into your work, so it's
okay.
better to listen to instrumental stuff for me,
Yeah.
or stuff in other languages because I've got no comprehension of it. But yeah, I'm looking more for mood and yeah, I guess that feel is the main thing. If it's a scene that requires, like we did a big battle scene in the second book, and I was listening to the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children soundtrack.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so there's the main bad guy theme. I think it's called One
Mm,
Winged Angel. It's
yeah.
absolutely amazing. That was on repeat while I was
Mm.
had the wife come down and give me a funny look because the same song's been on for 45 minutes.
It's a good song. That's
Yeah.
that's all you need to know. And Ryan here says, "Sounds like Christopher Rucchio. I wrote these 7 books for this final scene." There you
Yeah.
go. You've got comparisons to Brandon Sanderson and Christopher Rucchio. You're good.
They're all from Ryan though, so I don't know if he's just being nice.
I don't know. I mean, well, I think there was a couple other people who were saying the same thing. So you're in good company there, Ryan.
Mhm.
So in terms of the audiobook, which congratulations, by the way, on
Thank you.
getting an audiobook set up. Can you tell us who the narrator is, when that's coming out? How did you meet your narrator? All the questions. Just all the questions.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it because it's someone who I was watching. I was reading the whole Horus Heresy series, as I've mentioned,
Hmm.
and that's a mammoth undertaking. And then I discovered that there's this guy on social media who's doing these amazing monologues, from the series. So then I'm watching them and I'm thinking, wow, this guy's good.
Hmm.
And his name is Chris Tester, and he is an amazing talent, and he's a voice actor. So he was always my first choice, but I didn't reach out to him until recently.
Okay.
I just said, "Do you do audiobooks?" And he's like, "Yeah, I do. I haven't done many of them, but send me the book and I'll have a look." So I sent him some stuff over, and he said, "Yeah, this looks like something I could do." So now we're in the process of the contract is signed, and he's reading through the book. He's provided me with a few samples,
Oh, exciting.
and he's going to be starting work on it in May, I believe. So I'm really excited. And I actually gave Esme one of the
Yes.
clips.
I was gonna say we have the link for that in the
Mhm.
description if people want to take a listen to. I think it's a 2-minute clip.
And it's one of my favorite passages from the
Hmm.
book. I don't know if you've got to that yet.
I did. I did
Yeah.
get to that part. I have, again, so many questions, but I have to read. I have to keep reading. And then I'm gonna you know what's gonna happen? I keep saying that to myself, I have to keep reading, and then I'm not gonna get the answers I want. I'm gonna have to wait for book 2.
I don't know.
Mm,
I think you might get the answers. But
okay.
yeah, I don't leave that much. I don't like to leave too much. A lot of the stuff that is left over is sort of world building stuff.
Okay.
So I like to think that Renia's sort of character arc gets fully wrapped up in that book until we see her
Okay.
again. She won't be in the second book. So
Okay, interesting.
mm,
Alright, well, that gives me some hope, and you can
mm,
tell the books that I read,
yeah.
they leave me hanging. So in terms of going from writing to now hearing your book
Mm.
as an audiobook and going through that process, what's something that you've learned in getting an audiobook set up? Because that's a whole other process.
I, I don't know if I'm too early in the process to give you a
No,
satisfying answer.
it's whatever your experience has been.
I've said to Chris that I trust him,
Mm.
and I'm excited to see how he performs the book. And
Okay.
that's about the extent of my involvement.
Okay.
We did talk about my accent being in the book in certain places, because Chris is from the south and I'm from the north, and some of the words in Renier are more northern.
Oh, interesting.
So we will probably have a discussion at some point about which characters have got northern accents. But I'm very happy to let him just do his thing, because I think even if he did it all in a French accent, it would be amazing, you know. So I'm
You
not.
know what? Yeah. Well, I went to his YouTube channel and I listened to his Raven, the
Mm,
Raven, and I want to go back and listen to it because he did a phenomenal job.
yeah, yeah. He's very.
Absolutely.
It's his delivery. I
Mm.
don't sound like an idiot when I talk about these things because I don't know anything about it, but he definitely manages to pull something, pull on
Mm.
something in me when he's reading these passages, especially from books I've read.
Yeah.
So I'm happy and I'm excited, but I'm not getting too involved with the ins and outs of it.
That's fair. Every situation is different, right? Like I've talked to there's Chiago and Kevin Kemp. They have a different experience, but Chiago has said before, like he basically they did their thing, they did their consultations, pronunciations, everything that they needed to do, and Kevin just kind of went off, did his thing, and then came back.
Mm.
And I just think it's really interesting to hear about because, again, as a reader, these are all behind the scene things that we would never have access to otherwise, right? We would never know how to do these things, what it's like for you as the author going through it. So in terms of it just being, hey, it's off, it's being worked on. That's kind of nice. It takes a little
It was a
time off
surreal
you.
experience, you know, when I first got those samples back and
Mm,
I heard someone performing something that I'd written.
yeah.
Because it is kind of crazy when people come back to you and say, "Oh, I've read your book," and you're like, "What? The whole thing?" Um, and
Every last page.
I still get shocked now. I'm like, "Wait, really?" Um, so yeah, when you've got someone who's that talented reading something that you wrote and making it sound good, it kind of makes you
Yeah.
feel like a real writer, you know. And, it's
Helps take
nice.
that imposter syndrome away a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So, in terms of your own writing, how has that impacted your reading? Because you're also quite the reader as well. Has it
Mm.
changed how you read books? Has it changed the type of books, or is it just given you a more of an appreciation for what these authors are able to
It's
do?
given me a massive appreciation boost,
Yeah.
because now I find that even in, you know, books
Mhm.
from new authors that might not be as polished or might not have had the same amount of developmental editing that, you know, traditionally published books have. You read them and you find yourself saying, I really like this aspect
Mm,
of the book, so I don't get as hung up on things that would have bothered me,
right.
you know, before I started writing, because now you're a lot quicker to forgive things that you've done yourself.
Yep. We're all human, right? All
Yeah,
going through it and learning.
but also it gives you an idea of where a writer's going
Oh,
as well.
interesting.
Because now when I'm reading, like, I use Joe Byrne and his books as, because they're so easy to talk about. I find myself asking him questions like, how can I say this without spoiling anything? There'll be aspects of his world building where I'm like, is this a central theme?
Right.
Are you going to come back to this later? Is this going to be the crossover? You know,
Mm,
I'm always asking him like more writery questions. I sound so
yeah.
clever, don't I? Writery. Yeah. Yeah. So you find yourself thinking a lot more about the aim of the book rather than the
Mm.
experience of reading it.
Yeah, an American student says, "What? Why is this here?" Exactly. Why did you put this here?
Yeah. 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 What is this?
Oh, I
Yeah.
think
You want to poke at things a lot more, and also find it's a lot easier to find joy in everything
mm,
you read when you write. For me,
no,
anyway. I don't know if it's the same
I
for everybody else.
I think that's no, I think that's entirely fair because I know for myself, I'm more forgiving of some things as a reader than I've heard from fellow readers, right?
Mm,
I might not care about a use of a word, someone else might, and everyone's different. But I think at the end of the day, are you having fun?
mm.
Are you enjoying the book? Would you recommend it to someone? It it's all about having fun at the end of the day, enjoying the story, enjoying the characters, and it doesn't matter. Everything else is just extra, right?
Yeah,
Icing
and
on the cake.
you don't. I don't even mind when the criticism
Mm,
as much because you sort of. I'm more inclined to listen to people who are critical of my work and say, okay, that might be something I need to work on. And I think the imposter syndrome helps a lot with that because it forces you not to get upset or defensive,
right.
and instead look at it and be able to say, well, thanks for that because I'll make an effort to fix some of those things in later works. So and again, one of the nice things about being part of the community is people are sending me books now that aren't even released,
Yeah.
saying, "What do you think?"
Yeah. It's an amazing experience, right? And I know for myself, I want to do it justice. I want to give the book the time that it deserves to be able to read it through and not rush it,
Mm,
right? You want to give good feedback, whatever the case. And it's just amazing to, in my opinion, I always find I'm humbled every
mm.
time an author's like, here, take my book. Just take it whenever you get to it, read it, but just, I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's such a humbling experience every time.
yeah. It makes you feel really lucky to be part of it.
Absolutely. And Ryan here says, I don't read books, so I don't use tropes people don't like. Because it's nearly guaranteed I'll have a child's POV now that I'm reading Renya. And I've met authors like that too. Again, Chiago, he will not read anything while he's writing. Unless it's like a writing craft book, he
Mm.
doesn't consume other stories because he finds it influences his own writing too much.
Mm.
So everyone's different, right?
I'm okay with that though.
Okay. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
go for it.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm fine with it. And Ryan, like, he's hit on an important thing here. We do sort of not copy things. It's not plagiarism, but you're inspired by things. The moon
Yeah.
falling from the sky is a trope,
Yeah.
and it's a
Oh,
big one from the '90s because look at Zelda game Majora's
Zelda.
Mask,
Yeah.
or obviously that burrowed its way into my skull in 1998. And it's been there ever since because now I felt so impacted by that game that I
Yeah.
obviously made it. Oh well, I like this thing falling from the sky, and I like the vision of all the people trying to stop
Mm.
it from falling, and that's now become something that I wanted to incorporate into a book. And most of the things in the book are probably bits and bobs of everything I've read and watched over the
Mm.
years that are just sat there festering away. And
Turned into your own thing.
yeah,
Yeah. And American student here, quite literally, Ryan takes inspiration from everyone and everything. And it's just that it's inspiration. You end up turning it into your own story. I think
hmm,
Andrew D. Meredith has said the same. Inspiration comes from everywhere.
mm,
And I think he's talked about too when people are worried, oh, I this both myself and this other author have the same ideas, same inspirations. And he's like, well, you're both going to execute it differently because you're two different people. You've got two different sets of life experience. The likelihood that you're going to do it exactly the same, right, is very low.
yeah, it's amazing because me and Joe Byrne talk a lot now.
Mm.
He'll be like, "Oh, check this out," and it send me the new hybrid helix, and I'm like, he's used the word matron, and then because
Yeah,
we both got sort of like matriarchal societies as well
right.
in our worlds, so now I'm like, I can't use that word now,
Mm.
I have to try and think of another one.
There you go. I mean, now you just get to be fancy with your words.
Yeah, I have to. Well, I mean, Praelatus. That's why the hell did I name the big bad the big good, I guess. Something I can't even pronounce.
Only you can answer that
I
question.
don't know.
I'm sorry, I'm not much.
Questionable wisdom.
So for anyone watching, for all of you watching, feel free to put your questions in the chat. We'll do a few more questions before we wrap up because we're over the hour mark here. I don't want to keep you too long because I know it's late there as well. So yes, pop those in the chat. But in the meantime, I want to talk about the cover art
Okay.
because it is stunning. So who was your cover artist?
So the cover artist is Oliver Tsujino. That's the Japanese spelling, Tsujino. And he is an incredible artist who's very quiet. And it's very difficult to push him out in front of people because he's so introverted.
Right.
It's difficult to get him out of his shell, but he's so good and he's so talented, and his work has been a constant sort of source of inspiration for me, and I'm very grateful to call him friend and be able to work with him on these things. The cover for the next book is nearly finished, and it is so good.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I can't wait to show it off.
Do you have a anticipated cover reveal date? Are you going to do one?
I think first things first, I need to make sure the book is not insane.
We need that cover. Tide us over.
I need to make sure that at least one other person thinks I haven't lost the plot entirely.
Okay.
But I'm hoping to have release date. I'm hoping to reveal the cover and maybe open it to pre-orders before the summer.
Okay, that's exciting. That's very exciting. And the plan, I imagine, is to keep the same cover artist throughout the 9 books, right?
Yeah, I very much hope so, yeah.
Brilliant. I love to hear it. I love hearing how authors, because you're publishing these books yourselves, right? Publishing it yourself, you have to find your team members. And being able to make those connections is huge. So I love hearing.
Nurture your relationships with them as well, because you're going to be working together for a long time if you're doing a long series.
Absolutely.
But it's my goal to make sure that the numbers on the spines are pixel perfect on the shelf.
Oh, thank you.
Really annoys me when things don't line up.
Yes. I mean, I can get over it sometimes, but as a reader, I appreciate it. Ryan, thank you so much for watching with us and all your comments. And I just want to cover his comment here. Can I sue my characters for plagiarizing my trauma? You can certainly try. Absolutely.
Well, it's a new world.
And it just as a closeout here, a reminder to everyone watching now and later, as well as this will be a replay, you can go and get a discount on Renia, the paperback, I believe it is, by using the code K. Details will be in the comments and description afterwards, but definitely go check that out. I think you said, how much of a discount was it?
60%.
That's significant. Go buy the book.
More or less selling them at trade price there. So
that's incredible. So yeah, definitely go check that out. You've got a few more things coming up, don't you, as well? You've got the buddy reads, you've got the audiobook coming up. There's so many things happening.
There's a book tour happening very soon. That's imminent. I think there's 8 or 9 reviews on that, and that's with Chelsea and Lisa.
Yes, that's the indie book tours, I think it is.
That's right. Yeah. And love Chelsea and Lisa. They're both amazing people.
Absolutely.
And then I've got, I'm doing Livia. I'm doing a podcast with Livia.
Yes.
That might be going out later. I think I'm recording it before it goes out, so I'd have to check the date on that. But there's that. And then the buddy read on the Page Turner's Discord starts on the 15th. And then I'm hoping to speak with Chris Narvo and Biblio at some point after that. So it's going to be a busy month. But, it's the book's birthday, so I thought I'd give it one last kick and see if we can drum up, push it over that 100 ratings mark.
I mean, that sounds like a fantastic way to spend the book's birthday month. And I'm sure you'll be at over 100 in no time. I know it seems like it's a long process, but you're close to 50.
Yeah.
now, and so it's only a matter of time before that last 50 barrel in, especially with everything going on and so many things to look forward to from for readers. So all the links, I'll have those in the description as they come up. I'll pop them down as well. So be sure to keep an eye out. Go check out Renia, go check out Carl's stuff. And where can people find you if they want to tag along with this journey of yours?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter quite a lot. I'm on Blue Sky now as well.
Oh, nice.
And you can always find me on the Discord servers. I'm, chat to everybody on there. And, I'll be part of the SFF Insiders blog team as well. So I'll be posting things on there and I'll be around. You'll not have to look far.
Excellent. Well, I know I'm looking forward to sitting down and continuing this tonight, as well as all the podcasts and chats coming up. There's lots going on, folks. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Carl, for being here as well, chatting with me and putting up with my interrogation of, of your writing.
It's not an interrogation to enjoy it.
Hey, okay. All right.
Thank you, Kay, for having me, though. It's been a real pleasure. And thank you,
Absolutely.
everybody watching. I've had fun.
Absolutely. Likewise. Thank you so much, everyone, again, and have a wonderful weekend.